Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I am your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Hope everyone's having a great week and that your weekend of racing went well. As for the podcast, we were out at the Spencer C. Duncan Make It Count 5K in Gardner, Kansas. Good race, 5K. It was weird. It was a really weird morning, only because it felt cool. Like you would have thought it was a cool morning. The sun was not blistering down. We weren't suffering, but the humidity. Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever sweat so much for a 5K in my life. I was soaking wet from head to toe. And I made serious mistakes before that race. In my mind, it was justified by it's only a 5K, put that in air quotes. But yeah, I was playing volleyball the night before, 2 games of sand volleyball, which I haven't played in about 3 years. And I did that about 10 hours before the race started. So not great on my part, not a great race that I had, crappy time for me, but good to see all of our running friends out there. Saw people who were absolutely kicking that course's rump. Because again, for some people, it was a nice, cool morning. For me, it was just so humid, I couldn't hardly breathe. And then my legs were just zapped. You know, we had the half marathon last weekend at Rock Island. Then I had my soccer and my softball and then volleyball and then a 5K. It was a bit much, but oh well, you know, the race is done, always a good time. And so a lot of people stayed away from that race because it did not have a medal. And I understand that logic, but I did want to show you, they don't do medals, but they did do dog tags. So there were dog tags to commemorate the event. So on the dog tag, if I read it the right way, it says 12th annual Spencer C. Duncan Make It Count 5K on August 5th, 2023. So if you are watching on the YouTube, you can see that you do get a dog tag for that race in lieu of a medal. So I thought that was kind of cool. I think they did that last year as well. I don't remember, but if that's a thing that's ongoing, then for the people who didn't do the race because it didn't have a medal, now there's a little something you can hang up with your medals and you can get to that race and everything will be great. Cool. So next up, we have, let's see, where am I going to be? I'm trying a new race. Well, it's kind of a new race. It's a new race to me next weekend. It is called the Depot Dash, and that is benefiting the City of Overland Park Historical Society. Now, it's a new race to me as in I've not done this race, but it is a course that I have done many times. It is at the Aspira campus, formerly the Sprint campus, formerly the T-Mobile campus, formerly whatever campus you want to call it, in Overland Park. It's a course we've run many times. It is the course that I got my very, very, very first sub 30-minute 5K on back in June. Now, to be fair, it was perfect conditions that morning in June. It was cool. It was cloudy. It was actually rainy, no wind. Set up perfectly to get a 5K PR, which I did. I do not expect that same success come this weekend, as I imagine it's going to be much warmer than it was in June. And so we're just going to have to, you know, make it through the race. But that's what's coming up. And then, of course, the week after that is Rexy Run. I'm telling everyone I can about Rexy Run, and I hope to see you down in Lawrence, Kansas to do Rexy on August 19th. So if you're not signed up, you still have time. They're actually doing a little promotion by the time you hear this, where I believe you could get a little bit of a discounted price. Look them up on Facebook and get the code if need be. But let's see everyone at Rexy Run on August 19th in Lawrence, Kansas. And then the last bit of housekeeping that we have, last week we did our very first Back of the Pack podcast meet and greet. It was super fun. We met for dinner and drinks at a place called The Social Bar and Grill. Shout out to them. Thank you for hosting us. It was a fun night. Some people came out and we just got to shoot the breeze. And guess what we talked about? We talked a lot about running. So big shout out to Amy and Allison and Cody and Terry. Good grief. Sorry, my train of thought derailed and there were no survivors. And then, of course, our wonderful waitress, Haley, who, if you see it on social media, she's in the picture with us too, because Haley is awesome and she always takes care of us. So thank you to everyone who came out. I had a blast. I hope you guys did too. And that was a super fun time. So next up, we've got, well, not next up, but also coming up, we don't forget the KC Hustle Run. That is coming up. The second race in the Heartland Series. The third race is out there. Get signed up for everything. Brad said it on the episode that he was on, but I know some people didn't hear it, so I'm going to say this again. If you've already signed up for one of the races or 2 out of the 3 races, or maybe the first race and the third race, or whatever you've signed up for, Just send a message over social media to Brad at Casey Running Company and say, hey, I signed up for this and this, but I still want to do the Heartland series. Can I get the discount code and just pay for this race? Or you need to email him to get into the series, even if you signed up for a race or two. Even if you signed up for all three, if you haven't signed up through their system for the Heartland 30K, you need to do that so that they can get a medal for you, get the shirt, know that you're going to do it, know that you're going to be a finisher of it. So again, I don't want anyone to run all three races and then miss out simply because Casey Running Company didn't know, because that would stink. That would not be good at all if that was the situation. So, all right, so diving into this week, I know maybe I've done an episode kind of like this before, but I think this is going to be a little different, because lately I have found myself very frustrated with my running, frustrated with kind of the podcast and the way things are going, frustrated with the Casey Hustle Run and the way things are going. You know, sponsorship hasn't been where I wanted it to be. Maybe registration hasn't been where I wanted it to be. Maybe just all the planning to get this thing together is not where I wanted it to be. It's been a lot more difficult than I anticipated. The meet and greet didn't go exactly the way I thought it would. I mean, it was great. And please don't take this as I'm ungrateful. I'm very grateful to the folks who showed up. But all in all, there were 4 people. There were 4 people that came to the meet and greet. And I know that we have more people who listen to this show, and I get it. Life happens, you know, things come up. Maybe you didn't want to make the drive to Shawnee. Maybe you had something else already going on that night. Maybe you were at a running group. I understand all of that. So please, this is not any kind of a personal attack, but I was still frustrated with the result. Now, we have talked before about kind of being a little discouraged by runs, or maybe a little, I don't know, just being a little blue about a run. I think there's a little bit of difference here. A lot of that is disappointed. That's what I'll say. A lot of times we've been disappointed in things. I kind of attribute disappointment and sadness as kind of being together. When I'm frustrated, this is more of an anger type situation. It's a little more of an extreme emotion, and there's a lot of things frustrating me right now, which means it's making me a little more angry than it is sad. Does that make sense? Do a lot of people operate that way? I kind of think that they do. So what I wanted to talk about this week, because we've done episodes before on how to deal with kind of the sadness part of it, about the disappointing part of running. Well, what do we do with the frustrating part? Okay, because there is definitely frustrating parts of running. And so that's where we're going to focus on. The frustration, you could even say anger, depending on your definition. And this is how we're going to deal with it. So I wanted to look, and here is 18 ways they list to deal with frustration. Okay, it's different than dealing with just, being sad and being blue and being disappointed. Frustrating, I think, different. So let's talk about this. The first one, and this is not running related. We'll get to the running aspect here in a minute. So bear with me. This is not running related. This is just overall what you're going to do if you're frustrated. Number 1, do some breathing exercises. I will admit I am not good with this. I am not a big breathing exercise person, but there are people who swear by it. There are people who will use breathing exercises to go to sleep, to bring the heart rates down, to handle frustration, to handle disappointment, to handle all that stuff. So this is kind of multi-purpose. But here's what they say. And this is from Mental Health National. So these are the people who are much smarter than me. They actually have degrees on the wall with their names and stuff. So number 1, do some breathing exercises. When having a strong emotional response, you may notice your breath getting faster and shallower. By regulating your breathing, you can get more oxygen to your brain and help yourself calm down. A good technique is 4-7-8 breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8. So see, I wouldn't have even known that. A 4-7-8 breathing. So if that's your thing, you do that. Next one, progressive muscle relaxation. One of the ways our bodies respond to heightened emotion is with muscle tension. Relieving that physical tension will help your mind to relax too. Lay down and work your way through each muscle group. Tense as you slowly inhale and release as you slowly exhale. If you prefer some instruction, try a guided video or audio. Okay, so muscle relaxation. Number 3, this is one I'm not good with, but some of you are. Good on you. Meditate. Meditation can be a great way to connect with your feelings, but it can also help you create space between your thoughts and emotions as you settle into self-awareness. And then it says download an app. If you're not good at meditating, there are plenty out there. they say an app called Headspace or Calm, and look for guided meditation. So maybe that helps you. Number 4, and this will speak to most of us, exercise. Physical activity is a mood booster, helps you regulate stress and adrenaline, and is a healthy way to release pent-up energy. If you can, try going for a run and really focus on your feet hitting the ground. If you prefer instruction, see if your local gym has online classes or search for your favorite type of workout on YouTube. Okay, so a lot of us, we go for a run to help with our emotions, right? Like that's pretty standard. We're going to get to it here in a second when maybe the run is what's causing your frustration. Number 5 is yoga. If you prefer low impact workouts, yoga is a great way to get your body moving in a meaningful way. Yoga Pose has an online directory of poses searchable by symptom, like anxiety or back pain, and has categories including poses for calmness. So there you go, search different poses. I am sure you could do a search of yoga poses for frustration, and I bet you will probably get a pretty good list of things to do. So that is for all you yoga folks out there. Number 6, and one could argue this is what I'm doing right now. So you know what, maybe this is the one that I'm going with. But number 6 is vent. Ruminating on your anger only perpetuates it. So give yourself some time to let it all out with a trusted friend. As long as you don't focus on it for too long, venting can be a healthy emotional outlet. Just try to keep it to 15 minutes, then move on to more positive conversation. Sorry, apparently I can't read this either. If you want to vent anonymously, try an app like it says Leaf, LYF, or reach out to any healthcare or crisis hotline. Again, if you're really that frustrated and things are that bad, then absolutely reach out to some kind of a crisis hotline for sure. But venting is one. I think we're all very guilty of that. Even there was probably even a bit of that at the meet and greet last week. I know there were some folks just kind of letting it out in their thoughts on their running journey. And I'll tell you, I'm here for it. If you guys need someone to vent to, I got you, because I can nod and bobblehead with the best of them. Number 7, journal. If you're dealing with the kind of frustration where you can't even think straight, try writing or typing it all out. This can help you process a situation and calm your brain down so you can approach the issue with a more level head. So just my real world experience with this, way back when I got divorced back in 2010, I journaled for a full year. Every day I did journaling to try and make it through what was the most difficult situation of my life. So I can certainly tell you that journaling is a big thing. So I actually printed out the post-divorce journal I did for a year, 375 single-spaced typed pages. Yes, I talk and I can certainly type it all out with the best of them. Number 8, get outside. Spend some time in your backyard. Go for a walk around the block or head to your favorite park. If you're crunched for time, even just stepping out for 60 seconds of fresh air can help you recalibrate. To really help ground yourself, slip off your shoes and let your bare feet touch the dirt or grass. I can attest to this. There's a lot of times I will just walk out my back door and stand in the backyard for a few minutes. And I like that. It is very calming. Number 9, manage your expectations of others. Let us dive into this. Often, negative feelings come from misaligned expectations. Recognize that you can't fully anticipate anyone else's behavior. Change your own mental framework so that you aren't holding them to standards they won't meet. It's only hurting you, as my dog is now barking at me. Isn't that super great? Let me see if I can pause this and go shut him up. And we are back from our mid-conversation break due to a barking dog. Anyway, maybe we'll insert a commercial there. Wouldn't that be neat? All right, number 10 on our list, treat yourself. Sometimes you just want to lay on the couch with a bag of chips and your favorite movie, and that's okay. As long as it doesn't become an unhealthy habit, there's nothing wrong with treating yourself to some guilty pleasures. Guilty. This guy right here. That's definitely one of mine. For me right now, it is Flaming Hot Cool Ranch Doritos. I have a problem. I don't want an answer or a solution. I just want to live in this problem. They say, don't let it be unhealthy. It's probably unhealthy. These chips are probably burning holes into my stomach. but I don't care. I love them so much. So good. All right, number 11, and this is definitely one that I'll call on, and you saw an example of it just a moment ago. Spend some time with animals. Many people find animals to be a source of comfort and support. Interacting with animals has been shown to decrease levels of cortisol, a stress hormone, and lower blood pressure, as well as elevate levels of serotonin and dopamine, which calm and relax. And yes, that's a great idea until your dog is barking at you as you're trying to record a podcast. Then suddenly it's not so calming. Number 12 is distract yourself. Leaning into feelings doesn't always help. If you need to detach from your anger, try doing something that requires focus, like a puzzle or reading. I like that. Try something that requires focus. Definitely something I do. A lot of times these days, people video game. A lot of people will just dive headfirst into a video game, or they'll get into a book, or an audio book, or a podcast, or a TV show. But distract yourself. Get out of your own head and let something entertain you for a while. Definitely a good way to go. Really, for me right now, a lot of it has been like cooking shows. Like I've gotten into watching cooking shows and then maybe finding a recipe that I want to try and make myself. Like I'm getting really good at burgers because I love burgers. Oh man, they're great. And so I've been trying to find new ways to make them at home. And so at times I will experiment and try making a new burger. But that's something I use to kind of help with my own stress relief and just to get out of my own head. Because man, sometimes being stuck up here, it's not all it's cracked up to be. So next one, number 13, take a nap. We all need a brief reset at times. If you hit a wall where you are completely overwhelmed with everything going on, set a timer for 20 minutes and climb into bed. The rest will do your brain well, and checking out for a little bit often helps you go about the rest of your day with a fresh start. Again, if you can do that, great. I don't sleep well at night, so sleeping during the day is not something that's possible for me. But hey, if you can do it, man, more power to you. Go get it. Number 14, and this is one I actually had the stuff to start this. I just haven't started it yet because it's kind of the wrong part of the season for it, but I'm excited to try this. And so if this is something you do, kudos to you and let me know how it's going. But number 14, start a garden or get a new houseplant. Numerous studies have found that the act of gardening can be beneficial for numerous health outcomes, including anxiety and stress reduction. Don't have an outdoor space? Taking care of an indoor plant has similar effects on your mental health. For me, it's the gardening stuff. I don't want to make a big garden outside. I'm talking like a little herb garden that can be either inside or just maybe on my back deck or something. But I have all the stuff to start this. And again, I think it's too hot for most of them right now. I got to wait for it to cool off a little bit. But I'm actually excited to start this. This is one that I've already been prepping for. Number 15, get creative. Art is a great tool for emotional expression. Crafting, drawing, painting, writing poetry, and other art forms are healthy ways to channel your anger into something fun. And if you are an artistic person, salute to you. I am not. I cannot draw. I cannot sing. I mean, I love to sing, but I'm no good at it. Nobody wants to hear it. I am so jealous of all you very artistic, creative types because that's not me. But I certainly appreciate what you can do. Number 16, turn on some music. Oh yeah, this is all of us. Music has powerful effect on your brains. Search for a playlist of relaxing or happy music to turn your frustration into a more enjoyable emotion. Bonus points if you dance it out. I'm going to give you the other side of this. This is not in this article. This is just me speaking. And I know we've talked about it before on previous episodes. Rage walk. I recommend the rage walk that I do probably at least once a month. That's where I go out. I mean, you would think I'm going out for my run, but I'm not. I am going out, I'm walking, and I am turning on the angriest stuff that I have on my iPhone. I want to hear the songs that are angry. I'm going to punch a hole in the sky with my fist pumps. And yeah, I am all about the rage walk. If you have never gone on a proper rage walk, give it a try. I think you'll like it. Find the angriest heavy metal that you can enjoy listening to. Everyone has very wide variety of musical tastes, but find that song that pisses you off and go rage walk to it. Man, by the time I get home, I'm feeling so much better. So I know I've talked about it before, but rage walk, I recommend that. Number 17, get organized. Take 10 minutes to clean, plan, or otherwise streamline something in your life. Turning your extra energy into something productive will not only help you get rid of some of that frustration, but you'll also have accomplished something. I like this idea. Okay, and the last one, you might find this a little weird. We'll see. Number 18, wash your face. You got a little smudge, no, something right there. You should wash your face. Wash your face. It seems so simple, but putting cold water on your face doesn't just feel refreshing. It triggers your mammalian, I hope I'm saying that right, mammalian diving reflex, which slows your heart rate and breathing. By reducing the physical symptoms of frustration, you can interrupt your brain's feedback loop and reduce your emotional frustration as well. Cold water on the face. You know, I've done this many times for many different reasons. I didn't know that was why I was doing it or that was the effect, but hey, that's actually kind of cool. I use that one a lot. And, you know, it also helps after a race. You know, maybe if you've had you know what, I guarantee it does. So after Rock Island, I went over to get some more water before I left. And, you know, they had the huge cooler full of the bottles of water and ice in it. And, you know, even though probably 11 billion hands had been in this thing and maybe it's super gross, I actually took my hands in the water and, you know, splashed cold water in my face. A lot of that was just to cool off because I was so hot. But that refreshingness, shall we say, it does help you. It helps your emotions because Lord knows I was a hot mess, pun intended, after that race. So it helped. All right. Those are the 18, and I like those 18, and I hope you do too, and I hope it helps. Here's a story, though, that has to do with the running world, and I read this earlier, and this really helped. Like, this really helps you look at things in a certain way. So this is from a woman named Samantha Lefebvre. Samantha Lefebvre. So as I read this, this is her, her perspective, her words. So, when you hear me or I, this is from her, this Samantha. But I really like this story. All right, so here we go. From her perspective. I'm standing in the tiny kitchen of my New York City apartment, staring at the refrigerator. I'm not rummaging for food. Some of the ways she types, she's definitely from New York. I'm not rummaging for the food that's in it. I'm looking at what's pinned on it, a marathon training calendar. The plan is 2 pages long. I couldn't fit 16 weeks worth of workouts on one sheet of paper, and that alone causes anxiety to bubble up each morning when I review the day's workout. The calendar is covered with red pen scribbles, a method I use to make changes because I'm not only training for a marathon, but I'm also trying to have a life. Scanning the sea of red makes me want to go back to bed instead of lacing up my sneakers. I'm not sure exactly when my relationship with running turned toxic. Instead of my miles being the stress reliever I rely on to tackle a busy day, my time to meditate or work through mental blocks, they're starting to add more stress. Setting my alarm clock for an early run brings about dread instead of excitement, and setting out my clothes for the next day now causes huffs of exasperation, none of which puts me in the right headspace for a good run. Scroll past all the ads. All of these signs point to a problem. And David Seek, senior manager of running and creator of Precision Running at Equinox in Los Angeles, says it has everything to do with, well, me being her. Runners make the mistake of believing that their relationship with running is only about emotions, he says. The reality is it relies on 2 distinctive and equally important parts: your emotions around running and your attitude about running. The 2 are connected but different, he says. If running feels stressful, that's an emotion, one that's likely spurred by an attitude shift. It makes sense. Endorphin-induced positivity is not only feeling associated with running. There's the guilt that washes over when I miss a friend's birthday party due to a long run, the frustration when I don't hit my goal pace, and the stress over investing so much in yet another pair of sneakers. All of these examples have a negative connotation because in the moment, I had a negative attitude towards running. That, in turn, makes me feel stressed, and it affects more than just my brain. Ongoing stress, like 16 to 20 weeks of marathon training, can really affect your nervous system, causing increases in cortisol levels and changing testosterone levels, Seek says. According to the American Psychological Association, that can cause a domino effect of other physical problems or serious health conditions, including anxiety, muscle pain, and weakened immune system. In fact, a small 2013 study in a very long site here published revealed that recreational marathoners who experienced high levels of perceived stress, anxiety, and worry were more susceptible to decreased immunity that's commonly experienced during long bouts of physical training. In the 2012 published article, they didn't finish their sentence here, found that chronic psychological stress actually slows muscle recovery after a bout of resistance exercise. Stress around running can be a painful cycle, Seek says, but that cycle can be broken. The key is figuring out what's prompting your currently negative attitude towards running and taking active steps to adjust it. And here's how. So here's how to adjust to injuries. Running is, by definition, a sort of stressor on the body, says K.F. Hayes, PhD, sports psychologist and director of the Performing Edge in Toronto. That can be a good thing until injuries start plaguing you. When that happens, you have two choices. Scale back and treat the problem appropriately, or power through because you'll be damned if you miss that PR opportunity. Choosing the latter means it'll be easy to shift into a resentful attitude. But the way to make running a positive stress is to follow a plan that is effective for your body in that particular time, or at that particular time. Yeah, that's us though. We just ignore the injury until it goes away. One way to do that, pay attention to how your body feels when you're not running, suggest. How do you feel when you get out of bed in the morning? Is it different from days when you do run? How about sitting through a movie? Are you unable to get through it without having to stretch? These things can help you find your injury culprit. And once you have it, an attitude adjustment can take place. Secrets recommends coming up with a new running goal to alleviate the problem. Maybe that is reducing mileage, doing some strength training, or running on a treadmill for a couple of weeks. He says, doing so can actually be fun and enlightening, and it reduces stress because you have actionable steps to fix what's causing you to associate pain with your miles. Okay, so that's kind of roundabout on injury. So long story short, if you're injured, find other ways to continue to run without making that injury worse. Because when you're stressing about the injury, that can have the adverse affections on your body. Adverse actions on your body. Words are fun. I should try them sometime. All right, so number 2 here, the time commitment. So this is the stress around the time commitment. Signing up for a big race is the easy part. No, ain't that the truth? But finding time to train properly is hard. Not having enough time makes it feel like an obligation rather than a stress reliever, says Jeffrey Brown, another doctor. He's with Harvard Medical, so he kind of knows his stuff. So he went to Harvard to say not having enough time makes it feel like an obligation rather than a stress reliever. That can fuel negative emotions because, hello, we're not all pros here. If you're not being paid to run, it shouldn't feel like something you're being forced to do. Pause. Rewind that. Listen again to this, because this is all of us. That can fuel negative emotions. Hello, we're not all pros here. If you're not being paid to run, it shouldn't feel like something you're being forced to do. Oh, somebody hit the applause button, because boy, is that most of us? That's most of us. Let's be real honest here. We dread the race. We dread the race. Well, we're not being forced. You're not being forced to do that race. So if you're dreading the race, maybe don't do the race. Because yes, it is a time commitment. It's a physical commitment. It's a relationship commitment. You're sacrificing all these things for this race, and you don't want this to feel like a chore. But it certainly does sometimes, and that's our own damn fault. Continuing on, if it is, then Brown says you need to decide if you have time to run and strategically eliminate barriers that are getting in the way of your sweat time. Maybe it takes too much time to cook a meal, clean up, and get a run in. A viable solution could be trying a healthy meal delivery service or blocking out a few hours on Sundays to meal prep for the week. Solving problems in other areas of your life may ultimately help change your attitude towards running, so the thought of hill intervals won't seem so daunting. All right, so if you're gonna train for the race, if you're gonna do it, and if you're gonna enjoy it, You have to take time away from the other parts that might prevent you from doing your training. And look, hi pot, I'm kettle, you're black. I get it. This is me. I am terrible at this because I try and do everything. And I try and do everything for everyone. And yes, the first thing that suffers is my training. Because I at one time in my life, I told my softball team I wasn't going to play because I wanted to marathon train. Okay, well then I wasn't playing softball, but was I doing the marathon training I was supposed to do? No, I wasn't, because other things came up, or I filled that time doing something else and I did not properly train for the marathon. And then I had an injury, and we can go back here and listen to all the injury stuff. And did I alter things to adjust for the injury? Well, yeah, I didn't do anything because I was injured. But then I was mad about it because I still had this race, and I'll be damned if I was going to miss the race, but I knew my training was going to suck. Ultimately, I missed the race. I couldn't do the race. I was injured, so I deferred. It was last year's Berlin Marathon. I deferred to this year. Now this year, I'm not going to get to go because it is just too expensive, and my household does not have the money. So missed my chance last year due to injury. Can't go this year because of finances. That sucks, but you got to decide, where the stress is going to be and where the time is going to be. And so I had time issues and injury issues and now financial issues, and all that just made last year, the fall of 2022, just feel like a job. There was not a whole lot of enjoyment going on. So another one here, continuing on in the article, goals. When your goals are influenced by others, you can end up forgetting why you're even running in the first place. Peer pressure happens everywhere, and the running community is no exception. This can lead to stress or boredom, because a pop-up ad just got in your way of what you're reading. This can lead to stress or boredom because your training can start to feel like another tedious thing to cross off the to-do list rather than something that brings you joy. And again, I think we're all very guilty of that, especially when we get our marathon plans and we start training for a marathon. Now, I certainly do see the people, our boy Chris L., he's killing it on Instagram with all his training runs. And it looks to me like he's having a blast doing it. But a lot of times we will get our training plans in front of us and we'll freak out and we'll start stressing about it and trying to make it work or trying to make it perfect or trying to do everything right. And again, it's not something we enjoy. It's now something we have to do. And it just changes your whole mindset. So many runners hit a monotony wall when they continue to repeat training for the same type of race, Seek explains, like going for a second marathon instead of switching to a 10K to zero in on speed over endurance. Interesting way to type that. I think that runners are explorers by nature. So when you lose that feeling of exploration, things can fall flat and your attitude becomes just that, flat. I agree. I would agree with this 100%. And I like the way you put that. The runners are explorers. Yes, that's why I always recommend to people, and you've heard me say this before, your first marathon, I don't think should ever be the marathon in the town in which you live, unless you're only ever going to do one and you want to make it your hometown marathon. If you're only ever going to do one and you want to do that, okay, super great, cool. Then yes, do that. If you know you're going to try and do multiple, don't start in your hometown. Go somewhere new. Go somewhere where you have 26.2 miles worth of new scenery, new restaurants to look at and dream about going to, new landmarks, new big buildings, new billboards, new murals, whatever. But yeah, I do not recommend that you start at your own hometown marathon. I do have the Kansas City Marathon, my hometown, off my list, but I think it was my fourth. I think I finally got it on my fourth full marathon because I wanted to go see other things first. Went to the Route 66 in Tulsa because my buddy lived down there, and Tulsa's different. It's the Route 66 highway, so that was cool. New Orleans, did the full in New Orleans. And then I tried the one in Little Rock, but that's the one that got canceled halfway through due to the ice storm. So I only got 14 miles of it. But those were all ones that I did before I did my own hometown marathon, because again, wanted to see other places. It helps distract you and it's wonderful. Okay, so continuing on here, still on goals. Before you sign on the dotted line, Brown suggests really analyzing why you're running. Social goals are fine, but it may not be sufficient for motivating you throughout. If your heart isn't in it, or your busy schedule makes it too difficult to train that you dread future miles, consider switching to a different distance or trying a new race format, mud run or triathlon, an ultra, whatever. to rediscover your sense of adventure. So that's it for that article. But I thought that article was super fascinating, and they bring up a lot of good points that really can pertain to the frustrated runner. And I think at some point in time, we all have been frustrated runners. I know I certainly have. I actually kind of am right now. One of the problems being, like I said earlier, I do have a 5K coming up this weekend, but it's a course I've done. So while it'll be a new medal, it's still going to be the same old course. And, I'd love to go explore Berlin, but that's not in the cards. So won't be doing that. We will go to Memphis later. So I'm super excited about that. I have very recently, late to the party, gotten into that show, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. If you haven't watched it, it's on HBO Max. I am loving that show. But there's quite a few restaurants I've seen on there down in Memphis, Tennessee that I can't wait to check out. Because, yes, I'm running a marathon. And after I do that, I'm going to eat a whole bunch. And I'm super looking forward to it. So anyway, so much for listening to me attempt to read. It's amazing I ever passed elementary school, but somehow I did. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. It has been my pleasure as always. The show is brought to you by OKKC Sports. And you know what? I might actually just produce it myself this week just to see if I can. So if it's great, it's all me. If it's terrible, well, that's all me too. So we'll be back next week with a brand new episode where we're going to talk about something. Oh, I know we're going to do a product review next week. I've never done one of these before, at least not on the show, but I've gotten a few requests. So we're going to have a product review next week. So tune in and listen to me embarrass myself. It's going to be great. Hey, everyone, the heat is actually not going to be too bad this week. So have a great week of training. I hope to see some of you guys at the race next weekend. Other than that, have a great week, and we'll see you next